Let's do a thought experiment. Together, let's travel far into the future, to a time when biotechnology has advanced incredibly, to the point where spare parts for humans have become commonplace. But of course, let's assume that this is mostly the case for the wealthy. It wouldn't be too far off, right? Anyway, you happen to be in this class too. You're lucky enough to have access to human spare parts. Whenever you want, you can upgrade your own limbs. Or, if something breaks down, you can replace it. One day, a dear friend of yours is diagnosed with cancer. There's no chance of recovery. It's spread throughout their entire body. To make things worse, this friend has zero access to biotechnological advancements. You want to help your friend, so you offer to replace the failing limbs and organs in their body with new ones. They have no other option, and of course, accept. You start updating their body piece by piece, but over time, there's not a single part left unchanged, including their arms, legs, and torso. Eventually, you find out that the cancer has spread to their brain as well. After discussing it with your friend, you decide to transfer their mind to a digital format and replace their brain too. In the end, there's nothing left of their original biological body. They're in a completely new body, but with all the same memories, the same personality, and the same sense of self. But when you look at them, you see something entirely different. So, here's the question. Is this friend still the same friend? Can you look at them just as you did before? Can you act like nothing has changed and feel the same way about them? If you can answer yes to that, let's hold off for a moment. Our issue lies with those who would answer no. Well, let's not call it an issue. It's more about those who can't see this new-bodied friend as their old friend. The famous philosopher William Lacan has something to say about this. According to Lacan, if everything about your friend is the same, but they're no longer biological, and you can't feel the same way about them, you're a human chauvinist. In other words, you're a kind of human nationalist, harboring absolute resentment and hatred toward anything non-human. You're being discriminatory. So if one day we all become mechanized in the future, it shouldn't be a problem, right? Because we're still the same, us. Now, this also opens the door to some very interesting philosophy. Yes, as biochemical entities, we tend to see ourselves as superior and distinct from the machines we've created. After all, these machines are just tools made to perform certain tasks for us. But thinkers like Andy Clark, and particularly evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins, argue that there's a flaw in this perspective. Dawkins says that we can't limit the definition of a human to just their body. A human is something whose definition expands in proportion to how much they can use their environment to their advantage through their thoughts. We are actually broader structures that can be defined by the extensions of our thoughts. This might sound a bit complex, but what Dawkins is really talking about is that the technological devices, tools, gadgets, computers, and robots we use aren't separate entities from us. They are extensions of us. It's an interesting viewpoint, isn't it? It doesn't immediately settle in the mind, but Dawkins' extended phenotype argument makes it more concrete. The term phenotype is genetic jargon, typically known as the external expression of a set of genes. You can think of it like the way a series of proteins form different parts of our body. According to Dawkins, the phenotypic effects of a gene can be thought of as tools for passing itself on to future generations. Sometimes these tools can even extend into the nervous system of another organism. In other words, your biological existence isn't confined to your biological body. It extends to your environment and even to the tools you create and use. Dawkins loves to illustrate this with beavers and the dams they build. To him, building a dam is an essential part of being a beaver. You can't think of a beaver without its dam. The dam is no less important to what makes a beaver than its biological genes are. The same goes for spiders. Spinning webs is an inseparable part of being a spider. In the movie Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, there's a moment when TX starts controlling all the other machines, turning them into extensions of itself and transforming them into a single organism. From this perspective, all the technologies humans create can be seen as natural extensions of humans. If one day, an artificial superintelligence we've created decides to bring about the end of humanity, that decision should still be considered a result of human actions. just like a poorly built dam collapsing and killing the beavers that made it, or a spider getting trapped in its own poorly designed web. Another interesting perspective on this topic comes from the thinker Andy Clark, whom we just mentioned. You've probably heard the term cyborg, which refers to the combination of human biology and mechanical technology. According to Andy Clark, humans are inherently cyborgs from birth, especially those born in the technological age. From the moment we are born, technology plays a role in our development in some way. Andy Clark says that among all the creatures on the planet, only humans use non-biological tools to enhance and complete basic biological functions. This allows us to develop problem-solving systems that are vastly different from a brain made of flesh. In other words, the human brain isn't just limited to being in the dark inside our skulls, nor is it confined to our sensory organs. When you use a computer, play a game, or send an email, you're extending the boundaries of your brain, creating extensions of your mind. The mental processes inside your brain reach out as far as the processor inside the computer, establishing a sort of neural connection. So, yeah, if you use a phone, computer, or tablet, you're a cyborg. Any person who uses a tool to accomplish a task is a cyborg. And when we look at what separates humans from other species, our ability to use tools and manipulate our environment to our advantage, we see that this trait is deeply ingrained in us. As Andy Clark says, nature has designed us to be whole with our environment, our tools, and our devices. We can't think of ourselves as separate from the tools we use. This brings us back to the age-old question we often ponder and debate. Will machines destroy humanity, or will they continue to serve us? As always, when we consider this question through the arguments of Dawkins or Clark, our answer becomes more profound. Our relationship with machines or any future malevolent artificial intelligence shouldn't be viewed as a competition between us and them. Since we can't think of machines as separate from us, we can't make that distinction. Of course, this doesn't mean that machines won't harm us. As seen in Chernobyl, Hiroshima, or Nagasaki, the machines we create can collapse on us, much like poorly built dams, collapsing on the beavers that made them. And if machines were to destroy humanity in the future, we need to understand that it wouldn't be a massacre or genocide. It would be more like suicide. So, the real concern isn't the machines, it's still us. Even John Connor in the movie was talking about this when he said, "There's no fate but what we make for ourselves." As we wrap up this discussion, perhaps we should consider the concept of the uncanny valley, proposed by the Japanese roboticist Masashiro Mori. When Mori studied people's emotional responses to robots, he noticed something interesting. As robots become more human-like, people tend to respond to them more positively, up to a point. Beyond that point, when a robot becomes too human-like, people suddenly start to feel uneasy and afraid. This area of emotional shift is known as the uncanny valley. Now let's think about the scenario we just discussed, where we replace parts of our friend's body piece by piece. Perhaps, without realizing it, we're pushing them into this valley. And maybe the real issue isn't the changes in our friend, but our perception getting stuck in this valley. In the future, perhaps it won't just be technology that needs to evolve, but our perception as well. We might need to cross this valley and completely erase the distinction between human and machine. Because in the end, we've been intertwined with technology from the moment we were born. Perhaps the real challenge of the future will be to stop seeing technology as something external and start truly accepting it as a part of ourselves. And who knows, maybe one day, when we look at our friend's new body, we'll only see the familiar smile of an old friend. After all, what makes us who we are isn't the silicon or carbon beneath our skin, but the unique spark deep within our soul. And as always, until we meet again, thank you for being there. Much love.